Hey gang, what's up? Hello, welcome to the second part of a two-part vlog. I'm drinking a little, I always say limon. Limon. Do you know this? This is maybe only in Japan. But down here in hiragana, sorry my brain slept there for a minute, it says rimone, if you were going to pronounce it in proper Japanese. But I always think of lemon, and then for some reason the E at the end makes me say limon. So in my brain I think, oh, I need to get some limon when I go to the store. It's weird sometimes, because I've never heard anyone say this out loud. I've never heard a Japanese person say it either, so I don't know. But it's pretty good. It's like a tea, but, you know, lots of sugar. And probably not all that good for you. I'm wearing my original Zen Wakata Nice shirt here. The original. You actually have one day if you want to, you know, if you're seeing this video on the day I put it up, which is Saturday the 9th of August, the shirt's back up for, they relisted it without even telling me, because 15 people said, hey, we want one still after it ended the first time. Okay, so second part, let's get right into it. So I was talking about teaching to the middle, and the last video, thank you, a lot of you watched it all the way through to the end. I talked about my experiences growing up and the courses I went through and the classes I did through my schooling until graduation. And I want to compare and contrast that a little bit with what you find in Japanese schools. So, basically in elementary school, and again, this is my observations. I teach in a very rural, or I taught, I should say, elementary school in a very rural area. Some of the schools were very small. If you've watched my old videos, you know this. I had one school with like 11 kids, one school with like 35, and then I had normal size, what I would consider normal size elementaries, with say 300 kids. But I'm assuming a lot of what you find in Japan, you can extrapolate to a lot of Japan, because they tend to do things similarly, and the kids tend to grow up with a very similar schooling experience, which is, I think, why you find school-themed manga and movies it's so prevalent in the culture, because it really is a shared experience, unlike, say, America, where each state is very different, and there's private schools and public schools, and, you know, here all the kids know what kyushoku is. They eat school lunch, and they have to wear indoor shoes, and they have to wear a school uniform. I mean, these are things that are common like all across the board. So when you talk to other ALTs and JETs, their schools are very similar to your schools in many ways, but they can have significant differences as well. So when I'm talking, you know, I taught at 6 total elementary schools when I was a JET, and visited others, and, you know, talked to many other ALTs. There is no separation of children in elementary school in Japan, as far as I know. There are no pulling kids out based on ability and giving them some other kind of curriculum. The kids now, of course, are starting to get classes in like computers and things like this, but even that is somewhat rare in the elementary level. You know, they have to obviously have a room where they could put all the computers that's secure. They would have to have the money to buy, say, 30 computers. They would have to have somebody on the staff that's technically savvy to teach the class and or maintain the computers. These are all things that are surprisingly hard to find in rural schools in Japan. You would be fairly shocked. I think, and some of you will be when you come here to teach. The AV ability that you have just using your iPad or PowerPoint, or it would be leaps and bounds ahead sometimes of your teachers. And then other schools will have like touch, you know, like touch blackboards, and like be so cutting edge, and like be internet, what are those called, smart boards or whatever, like they're all connected to the internet. You know, I've seen some amazing presentations at JET functions of what you can do with technology, but most schools just simply can't afford it, or don't, you know, don't have the resources to use it. So the kids are basically in their homeroom. They're in their homeroom, and there's maybe 30, usually 40 is the maximum, but say 25, 30 of them, and they, that's fourth grade and fifth grade and sixth grade. And there is no, like, this kid's really good at math, let's pull him out, or this kid is already starting to fall behind, let's give him extra help. That's all put on to the homeroom teacher to, keep, let's say Akira, who's very good, interested, and Yuto, who's not so good, caught up. I think there is a big nationwide test, kind of like what they do in America, in the fourth grade, where the kids are assessed. But that's more, I think, to like show how well the school is doing. I don't necessarily think that the individual scores of the students are looked at and it's like, oh, this kid really scored high. We need to, give that kid some extra work or more challenging assignments or something. Or this kid scored really low. Let's give him extra help. I don't think that happens so much, unfortunately. So you have this condition that's already starting in elementary school, which I'm calling, and I'm stealing the phrase from someone, I don't know who, teaching to the middle, which means you've got your 10 or 15% up at the top who are really gifted, way above grade level. You've got that big chunk in the middle, say 70%, and then you've got that 15% down at the bottom who are not not where they should be at, say, 5th grade or 6th grade. They're below grade level. And so you end up having to gear your activities and stuff to the middle. And the way this manifests itself when you're an ALT, I found sometimes is, I like to give out stickers. Now, I've made videos about this. Please let's not debate stickers in the comments. If you want to do that, go find my videos on stickers. On this channel and my Taisha Jason second channel, I have a whole thing about stickers. And it's a lively debate whether you should reward kids for learning. I always felt that you should, and if we play a game especially, it's a fun thing, it's an activity. I gave the winning team stickers. But I had many elementary school teachers say, look, if you're going to give out stickers in my class, you got to give one to every kid, regardless of whether they win or not. Okay, that's your idea, that's your policy. Or you can give the winning team 2 stickers, but then everybody still has to get 1 sticker. Or, just different manifestations of, look, no one's a loser, okay? The kids are too young or whatever, or they won't understand, or, they'll get upset if they also don't get a sticker, etc. Now, of course, you can argue, well, that doesn't reflect life, Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. You watch your favorite baseball team or whatever, they don't, somebody wins that game and somebody loses that game. Not everybody gets a trophy at the end. Now, I know in America it's become like that, where, it's everybody like, woohoo, you played in 15 games, here's your trophy, whether your team did well or not, etc., etc. So I'm kind of like, hey, if one team does better than another team, they should get the prize. And it's always like, hey, you didn't get it this time, let's try again next time. You have another chance. I'm going to come back in a month and we're going to play another game, and maybe then you'll win, etc., etc. But I did encounter that where teachers would be like, Jason, you can't reward one group more than the other. So that kind of mentality is already there in elementary school. You can't single these kids out as better than these kids or whatever. And so that was a little tough. But, hey, I went with whatever the teacher wanted, of course. I am the ALT, the assistant language teacher, when you're a jet. Then we get up to junior high school, okay? So the kids enter junior high school, and in 7th grade, really what they're getting for the first time is, in a lot of schools, it's the first time they do have to wear the school uniform. Some elementary schools make them wear one. Some elementary schools, they can still wear street clothes. But for sure, I've never been to a junior high school that's a public junior high school, or heard about one in Japan where they don't have to wear a school uniform. Schooling is only mandatory through 9th grade in Japan. after ninth grade or the end of junior high school, you can stop going to school, excuse me, in Japan by law. And I think this is something that probably happens so kids in very rural areas who have to help their mom and dad on the farm and drive the tractor and blah, 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 could stop and go to work and not go to college, not go to high school. But like 98.6% of kids in Japan go to high school. So it's almost a silly, cutoff. But anyway, so junior high is the kind of one real section of mandatory schooling that the kids have to do. And of course, most of them then go on to do high school as well. So they have to wear a uniform. They're definitely most likely going to be in a larger school than they were before. Their junior high is almost always going to be larger than their elementary school. Not 100% of the time. There's ALTs out there that can give you examples. But for the most part. So there's going to be more kids, and there's going to be new kids they didn't met. They came from X, elementary school, and they're from Y elementary school. And they're going to have books, a lot of books. Maybe I'll put a link down in the description to my Flickr page where I've got the opening day of the new Ichinensei coming and all the books that are stacked up on their table. And it's just a lot right at the, when they're, 12 years old. And it's a big change. They're going to have tests. They're going to be graded. They have these kinds of things in elementary school, but English as the subject we're mainly talking about has always been a fun subject for the most part. Even with the new textbook that they have in 5th and 6th grade, I don't think the kids are really tested and given a grade or something. It's just an English activity that they now are asking the schools to do more and more. And they do have a book that they can use to guide that activity. So it's not just randomly playing a game or whatever the teacher could find on the internet. There's this book now that the government's put out for 5th and 6th graders. But really 7th grade is really where they start to be assessed on their ability to do English. So it's a big change, and some of the kids, right off the bat just fall behind, even though the first semester, if you will, is completely simple stuff. It's, hi, I'm Jason. Oh, hi, I'm Ms. Green. I'm your teacher. Where are you from? I'm from America. It's literally that. It's aisatsu, good morning, hello, good night, open your book. It's the alphabet, capital letters and small letters. It's all this very, very elementary, to use the word, stuff. And most of the kids have no problem with it. And then they start to get into some grammar and stuff as the 7th grade year goes along. And, the be verb, I am, he is, kind of thing. So, but again, what you're going to find as an ALT is you're going to go into those classes and you're going to have kids who, are jerking around or sloughing off or sleeping or whatever, especially, in the 2nd and 3rd grade, the 8th and 9th grade classes, or who just don't care about English already, who are bored. You're going to have a whole different spectrum of kids who've gone to Eikaiwa, who've gone to outside learning and are just super bored because, they learned how to do all this, how to write the alphabet and stuff when they were 4 years ago, when they were 8 and 9 years old, when they were, in their Eikaiwa. They know all the aisats down pat, and they know simple sentences, etc., etc. Now, they might not raise their hand and show a lot of proficiency, but in their brain, they know it, and it's boring as crap for them. I worry about my Eikaiwa kids who, go and enter junior high because the curriculum hasn't really course corrected for what they're A, learning in 5th and 6th grade, and B, all these other kids. So you've got this strata of kids at the top who are either good at English, maybe one of their parents is not Japanese, and so they speak English in the home, all these kinds of reasons. And then you have the middle, and then you have these bottom kids who are already going to fall behind. And unfortunately, in language learning, unlike, say, I mean, math is it's kind of like math. I mean, math you have to build. You know, you learn this part of math, and then you learn this part, and it builds on this. And in English is the same. You have to learn some basic vocabulary, and then you can add in some grammar, and then you can add in some idioms, and you can add in some sentence structure, and you know, it builds. And if you get behind early, it's really hard to catch up. And so what you find is the teachers will teach to the middle. They will center their lessons on hitting, as you know, the widest spectrum of students. So it's just interesting and challenging enough for a majority of students to, you know, have to think and have a hard time. But the top kids, like I was talking about, the kids that have been in Kiowa, the kids who, you know, are, you know, half, the kids who are just, you know, excel at languages because of their natural proclivity, are going to already be bored and be like, yeah, okay, I'm done. You know? And then the bottom kids are not even going to try, and they're, you know, because they can get, you know, zeros and stuff, and they'll still pass in Japan. And so what I was talking about in my video was how I was split up, you know, and in junior high especially, I was in a lot of honors classes for various subjects, for math, for science, for English, for history, social studies. And they just don't have anything like that in Japan. And I've talked with my JTEs, my Japanese teachers of English, about it before. And I'm like, why don't we, you know, pull out, you know, the 10 kids from Ichigumi and the 10 kids from Nigumi and make a class of 20 and have that be like a, you know, an honors class, and then, you know, the other 40, you know, the 20 that are left over and the 20 that are left over, you know, that 40 class, you know, somebody else teach that class, and you know, you and me teach the top kids, and really bolster and foster their love of English, and then the other kids, you know, can get the standard. And the thing that you'll hear more and more is, well, we can't do that. You know, it's always, we can't do that because there's always a gaggle of reasons. We can't do that because you know, Mrs. Watanabe will come in and say, well, why is, you know, Jiro not in the high-level class? Well, because look at his work, or look at his test score. Well, but I mean, if he was up there, he would do better. You know, he needs to be in that class. So you would have these helicopter parents who would, you know, not accept that their child is not in the more advanced class. You would have parents who were like, well, my son or daughter isn't in the advanced class, and I understand it, but it's killing their self-esteem, or, you know, their best friend, you know, is in that class, and now you've split them up, or, you know, she really feels ashamed that she's not in that class, you know, blah, blah, blah. So you can't, it's, you know, it's the old cliche about Japan, you know, the nail that sticks up, and you can't create that situation. They don't want that situation where the nail is sticking up from the other ones. And so, you know, there's that, and I think, you know, it does become logistically like, well, how do we split up the classes, and how do we do this, and, you know, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. There's just no system set in place in Japanese junior high schools to do anything like that, and in other subjects as well, as in maths and science. I mean, we desperately need good kids in math, good kids in science, and to be future engineers and, you know, physicists and whatnot in Japan. And there's just no way to foster this talent that the kids have. Maybe there's a club. In junior high, there's no real club that's English-centered. There is a science club, but, oh man, in my school it was always like 2 or 3 guys, and they were like uber nerds. And, I mean, that's fine if that's their little niche, but it was never well populated and, you know, talked about in the school, or really, you know, faded. I mean, I guess they maybe had like a science fair type of thing that they went to. But it's a shame, you know. And so, oh, well, my computer's kind of freaking out a little bit. Is it okay? Come on, computer. So anyway, no honors classes in junior high, and I've talked about it. Now, the one time I was able to have something like this is we had an elective in, I think, both Ninensei and Sannensei in junior high, but especially in Sannensei, the kids are given a choice. They have like a free period where they can study music, they can take an extra PE class, or they could take like extra English with Jason. And I was a pretty popular teacher, so we'd get kids that would take English with Jason. And basically a lot of the kids, whatever their friend would do, they would sign up. Kids love PE in Japan, way more. I used to hate PE. I always wanted to get out of PE. Whoa, this is just freaking out. Okay. I always wanted to get out of PE. So it's kind of like... it's just so different here. They love to go do PE, and if you ask kids across the board in elementary and junior high, what's your favorite subject? They'll say, oh, I like PE. And you're like, well, that's not really a subject. That's kind of like an activity. But in Japan, they literally have tests in PE, and they have a book, and I mean, it's crazy. So a lot of the kids would sign up for the PE. The music would usually be something like learning to play the shamisen or the koto, or a very traditional, in my rural area, a very traditional Japanese instrument that's, they want you to have these kind of knowledge when you live in a rural area in Japan. It's not like they're getting out the keyboard or the electric guitar or teaching them how to use GarageBand or something. And so I would teach that class, the English class, the extra English communication class. And that's really what it was. It was supposed to be a lot of communication activities. It was just one day a week for one period, so like 45 to 50 minutes. I can't remember how long the periods were. And, the kids were from all different classes, so they kind of got to mingle a bit. And it wasn't just Sangumi or Yongumi or whatever. It was any of the homerooms they could come in. So the first time I did it, went really well. The JTE who I was with was really cooperative, and she must have told people at the, in the head, the Kyoto sensei, the coach, oh, Jason did this really good class. The kids had a really good time. They spoke a lot of English, etc. And I basically ran that class. That was one of the few times when I was in ALT where I got to do some lesson planning. And I really look forward to it. It was my favorite class. And the next time I did it, it just so happened that it was like all the kids who really love English took it. And it was almost all girls, because girls tend to excel at English, especially early on. And like one boy. And but it was a small class too. It was only like 15 kids or 16 kids, so it was good for groups, and it wasn't like 25 or 30. And I kind of treated it as an honors class, and we did activities that you could actually like start the one week, and I knew that I would be teaching it the next week, because at that time I only had one junior high school. I didn't go to a second one. So I knew that I could be there the next Wednesday or whatever, and I would do multi-class projects or things that you just can't do in a regular class. And there was no book, there was no curriculum, it was all my ideas. The teacher just let me run with it, and it was fantastic. And the kids, we did a cooking lesson one day. I taught them in English how to cook French toast. We did music stuff. We watched movies and talked about the subtitles and what the translations were. It was just a fantastic class, and I really got to plan it. And then unfortunately, like the next year, I got a second junior high, and they knew I wasn't going to be around every single time. And so really what they turned the class into is a remedial class, which is good. I mean, they need that, but it totally was like a splash of cold water, because I'd gone from this class where I was doing all these exciting things and really, just using some of my best ideas, and that's the music telling me it's almost time to go home. Ooh, it's kind of loud, sorry. And then the next, it was like, oh no, they've got to look at this word list, and we've got to go by this book, and they've got to do extra work to get up to grade level. And it was really, I hated going. It was just so not what I was interested in, and I didn't go all the time. I mean, I probably every other week I would go, and I think the JTE in charge there kind of knew, and she would invite me sometimes when she'd be like, okay, they finished this section, why don't you do an activity? But it really was different. So no honors classes. And really what happens is honors classes in Japan, that whole concept of separating kids out by ability happens at the high school level. And they take tests to get into high schools, and different high schools are known for being I think I can maybe turn that down. Hold on one second. Yes. Okay. That was really loud. So what they do is they at the high school level, if you want to go, I'm just going to use my town in Shimane that I used to live in as an example. If you wanted to go to Izumo High School, it was the academic school. It was the school that sent kids to college. If you wanted to go to Taisha High School, it was like the second best academically, but it was also really known for sports. And they would literally have like a dormitory where like kids would come in from other prefectures to play baseball or play soccer, and then and I talked to like Mai and Mayuko and some of the other kids, the three triplets. They all went there, and they would have like 9 homerooms in high school, and the top 2, like Ichigumi, Nigumi, would be like the smart classes, where they would weed out like the kids based on their exams and stuff, and then sort of the next 7, or next 6 or so would be just sort of regular, and then the last class, usually the 9th class or the 8th class, Hachigumi or something, that would be the jock class. And so it was interesting, like it was almost always all boys, maybe a few girls who were in gymnastics or they really had to be super jocks. I mean, not just be on the volleyball team, but like seriously be like really good at something. Maybe they were super good at kendo or something as a girl. But a lot of boys, the soccer team boys, the baseball boys, etc., would be in that class too, and that would almost be like rocks for jocks. They would do simpler classes and let the kids have a sense of studying and stuff, but really their main reason, you could tell, to be in high school was to play sports. And so that's what they would do in high school. And just to get into high school, you had to then, that's where they really, in Japan, separate, the smart kids from the not so smart kids, to be honest. If you went to, we had a school that was had its own little farm at high school, and so you went there if you wanted to study, like to be a veterinarian maybe, or to be a farmer, or to learn about agriculture. And so the academics were not the priority. There's a fishery school where the kids on one of the islands off Shimane, where the high school where they basically learn to be fishermen. So again, academics not the huge priority, because they kind of know where they're going to go after they graduate from high school. So the test to get into Izumo was very difficult, the high academic achieving high school. And some kids really wanted to go there and just didn't pass the test, and then they would kind of go to their second choice. And it's really that high school, junior high to high school leap is a lot like what we do in America for college, where you really want to go to, say, Stanford, but you don't get in, so you go to Berkeley, or you really want to go to UCSD, but you don't get in, so you go to San Diego State, or something like that. So this is really where that one bit of separation happens, and then within the school itself, at the high school level, you'd have to talk or have another video made by a high school ALT, and they could tell you a little bit more about how they differentiate in high school. But but again, they don't separate the kids out and have honors classes. The whole kind of homeroom is an honors class, and maybe they would move around, and when they go to do science, it's a different science than, say, San and Yon and Gogumi, which are doing a slightly different science book or something. It's just weird to me that the separation can happen then. The kids are separated then, or the kids take these tests and their ability shows that they're able to go to this school or this school. But if you try to do that in the junior high level, there's so much pushback, and it just seems like you could be preparing the kids so much better for what they need to be doing in high school, the math they need to be taking, etc. And so as an ALT, to wrap this up, because I'm almost at the half-hour mark, as an ALT, when you go in to teach, you just got to be prepared that you can't necessarily do things that are so challenging, because a lot of your JTEs will say, look, this is too difficult for, you know, this whole section of the class. And you can't, you know, you don't want to do things that are so easy that the really smart, brainy kids are finished in 2 minutes. So you find yourself teaching to the middle, you know, you're trying to involve as many of the students as you can, and unfortunately the kids at the very top and the kids at the very bottom kind of fall out, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And it's a sad part of Japanese education, especially in the middle school chunk, that this is the way it goes. It would take a very big reformation of the system to change that. And so I guess my warning is, don't come in and, I mean, you can talk to your JTEs and go, you know, why, you know, we've got, you know, look, you know, Yuki is so smart in English, why can't we give her extra, or, you know, have her read a book or something and do a little report. And I mean, maybe like one-on-one, if there's like a super smart kid, you could probably set stuff up, especially if you're at that school all the time. But class-wide, it's really hard to do. And it's just unfortunate. And it's part of, like I said, them not wanting to accept. The kids themselves won't raise their hand or show proficiency a lot of the time because they don't want to stick out. Be like, oh, you're an English brain, you know, oh, you really know English, you know, and be, you know, any reason to, like, you know, for the other kids to make fun of you. You know, whereas in America, I mean, it was a point of pride. If you knew something other kids didn't know, it was like, ha-ha, you know? And you know, you always were trying to be the smartest. I was, anyway, in my classes. All right, well, this one's gone on for 31 minutes, and we've had a little ups and downs, and I really do have to go because they're closing the whole area where I work here. It's Saturday at 5 o'clock. If you are interested tonight, this will only be pertinent like this one time when you watch this video. I'm going to be doing a live chat, and I hopefully will do one more because I've got some free time now before I go home to America. So a live chat tonight on YouTube at 11 p.m., and that's Saturday, August 9th, 11 p.m. on my Argonauts channel. Just come hang out, ask questions. Join in the chat. Hopefully I'll get the chat comments on the side, like 2.5 Oyaji, and we can just have a good chat. Thank you for watching all of this. Here's our art of the day today. And cheers. I hope you have a good rest of the weekend. And like I said, I hope to have 1 or 2 more videos up before I go home to America, and then you know, I'll maybe do some stuff in America. I'm going to be pretty busy, but you know, I'll try to throw some stuff up. So thanks for again, but I'll definitely be active on the Facebook page. I'm always posting over there links and thoughts and, you know, things that are about Japan. So join the Facebook page. It's an easy way to stay connected and ask me questions if you have them. Okay, Zen Zen Wakananai. See ya, I'm out. Peace.